Hi there, Smart Drivers, talking to you today about left-hand turns, the most dangerous maneuver on your driver's test and one of the most dangerous maneuvers when you start driving for drivers that have little experience with left-hand turns and moving through the intersection, looking for vulnerable road users, mapping and tracking the intersection, and taking note of those other road users that potentially could cross your path of travel. Keeping yourself safe, because this is now one of the dangerous maneuvers that you're going to conduct when you're driving because of T-bone crashes. There's little in the vehicle that is going to protect you, and if you do get T-boned when you're driving, usually during a left-hand turn, usually at higher speeds, there isn't anything in the vehicle that can protect you. We have more or less eliminated fatalities due to head-on crashes. I mean, unless it's above 55 miles an hour. We have crumple zones, airbags, seat belts, those types of things. But with T-bone crashes, we don't have any of those safety features. So we're going to give you some tips and strategies today to turn safely, make left-hand turn safely, and significantly reduce the chances of being T-boned when you're conducting these maneuvers. Mallory is here from the Maritimes. Good afternoon, Mallory. And my friend Elevator Fan is tuning in from Monticello, Indiana. And if you're just tuning in, let us know where you're tuning in from. Let us know what class of license you're going for, how we can help you out. Here at Smart Drive Test, we help new drivers to pass the driver's license test, and as well veteran drivers to be safer, smarter drivers, and CDL drivers to start a career as a truck or bus driver. BA says his driver's test is today. Don't freak out. Remember to breathe in through the nose, out through the mouth, and that will cause your body to relax, and then you're going to be successful in passing your driver's test. All you have to do is take away the driving examiner's right to fail you. Nothing less, nothing more. That's what you need to do to be successful on your driver's test. Just bear with me one sec here. There we go. All right. So, driver's tests. Damon, hello, my friend. Left-hand turns. This is one of the maneuvers that you have to conduct on your driver's test. Turning, they want to see you doing maneuvers, turning left, turning right in residential areas at less complex intersections, and then at complex intersections, which are defined as traffic lights, stop signs, yield signs, and they may use the language of controlled intersections, but bigger intersections in the cities, and more complex the more traffic there is. If you get into the larger metropolitan places like Chicago, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, Dallas, Texas, and those types of things. So it can be complicated if you're doing left-hand turns in bigger cities or making a left-hand turn moving through a roundabout and whatnot. Klaus, my friend, how are you? 7:30 in Southeast Bavaria, Germany. Awesome. BA, I practiced for 4 hours. Today I watched 3 hours of your videos, and I'm practicing driving for 2 hours before my test. My big concern is bad social anxiety. Yes, and acknowledge that you have anxiety, acknowledge that you have fear. We all have fear when we're taking tests. Ignore what the driving examiner is doing over there in the other seat with their little clipboard. And the other piece of advice that I give to drivers who are testing is that keep going until the driving examiner tells you to stop. Because if you make a mistake and you, oh my God, I made a mistake, and then you get all flustered and you just screw up the rest of the test, that may undermine something that you could have done successfully. So if you make a mistake, don't get stuck in the mistake. Just take a breath and carry on. Do not stop doing what you need to do to pass your driver's test until the examiner tells you to stop. Otherwise, just keep going. Keep going. Damon, my road test is July 3rd in Surrey, British Columbia here, so you are going to do great. You got some time to practice between now and then. And Damon, are you taking any driver's lessons with a driving school or an instructor or those types of things? Elevator Fan, always keep your wheels straight when you are waiting to turn left. Yes, and that is one of the tips, but there's other tips that are more important than keeping your wheels straight. But that is definitely one of the tips, especially when you're turning left at higher road speeds out on higher roadways and those types of things, because if you get rear-ended, you're going to be driven into oncoming traffic. And it's not just your wheels straight. To add detail to that, it's also keeping the vehicle straight, because if the vehicle is on a bit of an angle, as sometimes happens, even if your wheels are still straight but the vehicle is angled, you will be driven into oncoming traffic. And there are intersections And there's a whole playlist here on the channel on left-hand turns. Some left-hand turns where you're going to have to do a little jig jog because you're looking across, and for whatever reason the left turning lane on the opposite side of the intersection is offset, and if there's a large vehicle in that left turning lane across the intersection, it's going to block your view of oncoming traffic. So you have to move over to the left a little bit and then bring your vehicle and your wheels back to straight. Because if you just angle out on an angle like this and then you get rear-ended, you're still going to be driven into oncoming traffic, even though your vehicle, your tires are straight. So make sure that you keep your vehicle straight too. So when you do your little jig jog, you move out to the left and then straighten the vehicle out again, and that's going to keep you safe while you're waiting. Damon, how does school zones work in the summer? Damon, if school isn't in session, then the school zones don't apply. All right, so summer vacation, March break, public holidays, those types of things, it's only those days that it's not applicable. Now, there may be signs that say summer school is in session, schools speed zones are applicable. In a lot of areas throughout the United States, they will have flashing lights to indicate that the school zone is active. But for the most part, 99% of the time, public holidays, March break, school holidays, school zones do not apply for a driver's test. And the reason that Damon is asking that for the purposes of your driver's test, speeding in a school zone is an automatic fail. Okay, it is one of the few automatic fails on the driver's test. Now, the other piece that I'll keep at the forefront of your mind is that and I've said this previously, the number one video on the channel right now is 10 automatic fails on a driver's test. 10 automatic fails on a driver's test went over 2 million views in 1 year. However, that is not the way that most people fail a driver's test. Most people fail their driver's test because they get assigned too many demerit points. You get assigned demerit points for minor and major errors on your test. Minor points on a driver's test are deviating in your lane. For example, you hit the white line on a multi-lane road. That's going to be 5 points. Incorrect turning positioning, or you drift into the other lane. That's going to be 15 or 20 points. That's the way that most people fail, and for most driver's tests, you are allowed 35 points. If you get more than 35 points, that's a fail on your driver's test. So have a look at the most common errors on a driver's test. And again, shoulder checking, shoulder checking, shoulder checking, shoulder checking. I cannot emphasize that enough. You have to shoulder check in the direction that you're turning. So to keep it simple, mirror signal shoulder check every time you change directions of the vehicle, and minimum 2 times, okay, before you change direction of the vehicle. Look and then change directions of the vehicle. So shoulder checking. 3PO, I'm commuting to work earlier and this guy in front of me kept starting and stopping, and I thought to myself, yeah, I'm going to be give extra following distance. Yes, and it's those signs of communication changes, inexplicable changes in speed that communicate to you that something is going on, and you did exactly right. Just give the person lots of space, stay away from them, let them go and have their crash somewhere else. Kay, how do I stay in my lane? I have trouble knowing if I'm with someone else's lane or mine. Follow other traffic. That's generally your best landmark for staying in your lane, is following other traffic. Francesca, hello, and as well, there's a video here on the channel on staying in your lane, and you can have a look at that. And if just leave me a comment in the video here underneath. I'll come back later this afternoon and check the comments, and anybody that I said a video about, I'll put that video link up for you so you can have a look at it, because Corey's not here. Corey is really awesome. He does this Tuesday evenings videos, usually gets the videos up for me, but he's not here. But if you leave a comment down in the comment section, if you're watching now on the live stream or watching the replay, just leave a comment down in the comment section there, and I'll get the video for you to have a look at for more information on whatever question you ask, and I suggest you have a look at that video. Francesca, do you ever have a dream car? Yes, I do have a dream car. Currently, it's the Audi S4 with a manual transmission in it, but my real dream car is a Maserati. So we're going to get there one day. We're definitely going to get there one day. We are working on that right now. Patricia, hi. When can you have one pedestrian, Colorado Springs? Pedestrian, Patricia, or passenger? Are you talking about one passenger in your vehicle? Is that what you're talking about? Just clarify that for me. All right, so left-hand turns, we're talking about that today. Dangerous maneuvers, because if you're with somebody else in the vehicle and you get T-boned, there's a high percentage that it could be fatal, because the problem is that here in the doors on the car, there isn't anything there to protect you. And it's right in the vital organs of your torso, and this is why most people are killed when you're driving and get T-boned. So you want to avoid getting T-boned. Walker, okay. One pedestrian. I'm not understanding the question you're asking me, Patricia. Can you reword that for me if you don't mind? We'll do the presentation and then I'll come back and I'll answer your question for you, all right? So the way it works here is we have a presentation. It's about 10 or 12 minutes, and then we'll come back. We'll spend the remainder of the hour answering any questions you have. Today we're talking about left-hand turns, ludicrous left-hand turns. Some will have advanced lights that will give priority to left-turning traffic. Others will have a signal that is just for the left-turning traffic, and then if you get into residential areas, you're going to have to give way to oncoming traffic, and that way you'll be able to make your left-hand turn. We'll show you where to wait and those types of things for best defensive posturing to do that safely. Those of you new to Smart Drive Test, my name is Rick August. I was a truck driver during the 1990s, hauling freight between Canada and the United States, mostly in the United States, east of the Mississippi. I did make it out to the west a few times. Went to Australia in the early 2000s, drove bus for Greyhound there, and one of the regional bus lines, and then went to university. So fascinated by the issues of traffic, what motivates drivers, and what causes crashes, and why we really don't care about crashes in our society. And I've more or less I have an answer to that. Currently trying to conceptualize and write a book called The Psychology of Driving to try and delve into that even more deeply. 2006, I graduated with my doctorate in legal history from the University of Melbourne in Australia. 2015, after teaching at the university for a number of years, I started the YouTube channel, the online YouTube channel in 2015. It has been wildly more successful than I could have ever imagined. We're just about to cross over 300,000 subscribers this year. We just at 46 million views. I mean, just crazy numbers on the YouTube channel. And I would hope to say that we have helped tens of thousands of people to pass their driver's license and start on the great career of being able to drive and get around. Great stuff to have a look at. Left turns gone wrong. Have a look at that, and as well check out the podcast over at the Smart Drive Test website. You can find those links down in the description there. And pass first time. This is Charlie. I helped Charlie out to get his license, and he was very successful. He worked really hard, got a lot of driving instruction, and got a lot of driving time in, and passed his license first time. So that's a picture of him being successful in getting his license. All right, so left-hand turns, we talked about them being dangerous because you're crossing oncoming traffic and you're exposing the belly of the beast to oncoming traffic. And if you misjudge it, you're going to get T-boned, and there is no protection in the vehicle. So have a look at the Judging Gap video in the left-hand turn playlist there, and how to judge that. Generally, you're going to need anywhere from kind of 4 to 6 seconds to cross 2 lanes of traffic when you're making your left-hand turn. So it's going to take a bit of practice, and if you're not comfortable with this, I do strongly encourage you to take driving lessons with an instructor or work with a veteran driver who can kind of walk you through this step by step. Okay, start learning in a quiet area. Map and track the intersections as you're approaching. Where are the other cars? How much gap do I have with oncoming traffic? And you can't see in the image here, but there is a pedestrian here on the left-hand side. This would be a perfect example of driving at sunset and driving at sunrise when you have a light sky and a dark landscape, and pedestrians hide in the dark landscape. And map and track those, because the pedestrian has the right of way and has reached the other side of the intersection before you can make your left-hand turn. Get comfortable with the steering wheel. And one of the issues that new drivers have when they're learning how to drive and go for their road test is getting comfortable with the steering wheel. Steering wheels on cars turn 1.5 directions in left and right for full steering. But you don't need that. On a left-hand turn in a residential area, you're probably going to need 1 revolution of the steering wheel. So you're going to have to turn it 1 full turn to get around on the left-hand turn. Okay, find your landmarks. Where are you going to start turning? When you start turning in residential areas, you want to be lined up with the edge of the street on the cross street, and that's when you're going to start turning the steering wheel to get around the corner. Every turn, every time you move sideways, you want to shoulder check, shoulder check, shoulder check. I told you this for the purposes of passing your driver's test. You need to observe correctly, and shoulder checking is one of those ways that you observe. Our eyes are attracted to light and movement, and you're quickly turning your head to look in the blind areas on either side of your vehicle. I know that some people call them blind spots, but it's not a spot. It's actually an area around your vehicle. And there's a video here on the channel on blind areas. I need to kind of reshoot that video, but this is what you need to do to see where your blind areas are and to find out whether there are pedestrians, cyclists, motorcycle riders, and other vulnerable road users who might be in your blind area. So have a look at that. And when in doubt in turning the steering wheel, shoulder check, shoulder check, shoulder check. So if you pull up to an intersection, you've been there for a while, immediately before moving the vehicle or changing directions, shoulder check again. All right, waiting, where to wait at the intersection. And there are 2 schools of thoughts on this with different driving instructors. Some believe that you need to pull into the intersection deep. I do not subscribe to this, because if you're in the intersection and something happens, you're going to be involved in the crash. All right, wait at the edge of the intersection. You want your front steer tires on the front crosswalk line. That's going to make you committed to the intersection, but not in the intersection. And as well, if something happens, then you can just wait there, because if you get caught out and the light changes yellow and you hesitate, then you can just wait there. Yes, pedestrians will have to walk around your vehicle, and it's a little bit embarrassing, but you're still not in the intersection. So front steer tires on the front crosswalk line, and then when the vehicle comes through that's in front of your gap, then you start driving straight into the intersection and you make your turn, and you reduce the amount of time that you're in the intersection because you've gained a bit of speed as you're moving through the intersection. Okay, never drive over painted islands at complex intersections, and the reason you don't drive over painted islands is because it creates a buffer of safety between you and oncoming traffic. So if you are behind a line of traffic and you can't get into the turning lane, but there is a painted island there, you simply have to wait behind the line of traffic before getting into your lane and turning left. Okay, sometimes you're going to have to go on yellow, sometimes you're going to have to go on red, because you're going to get stuck out there in the intersection. If it goes yellow, start driving straight forward into the intersection. When you're sure, double, triple check that the oncoming traffic has come to a stop, then make your turn. Know that if the light turns red, you own the intersection. You need to clear the intersection, but you own the intersection. Do not go unless you are absolutely double, triple check, absolutely sure that oncoming traffic has come to a stop, because you do not want to get T-boned when you're in the intersection. All right. Watch for right turning vehicles on the other side of the intersection. Watch for pedestrians on the other side of the intersection, kitty corner to where you are. That could potentially step out into the intersection when you're turning, because the other piece about this is, unlike right-hand turns, left-hand turns can be at higher speeds, sometimes 20-25 miles an hour moving through an intersection. So before you get there and before you start moving through the intersection, make sure that you map and scan the intersection and track those road users that potentially could cross your path of travel, that you are going to intersect with. 40%, more than 40% of crashes happen at intersections. It's also the place where you're most likely to encounter vulnerable road users, pedestrians, skaters and scooters, motorcycle riders, cyclists, those types of things. So map and track the intersection and know where these people are located. Good luck on your driver's test, and remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. Get back over here. There we go. All right, perfect. All right, so Patricia says how to stay safe walking on a roadway if I'm using a walker where no handicap curb cuts. Oh, okay. So I know what you're asking me now. Yeah. I'm laughing, Patricia, because a woman tried to run me over this morning as I stepped out into the roadway in front of her. She was making a right-hand turn on a right red light and inching forward and wasn't checking to the right and giving way to pedestrians. But of course, she was pretty upset when I yelled at her because driving is emotional. And we get emotional very quickly, and I get very emotional when somebody's trying to run over me with a 2,000-pound vehicle and I'm trying to walk across the intersection. But anyways, how to stay safe. That's a tough one. Definitely, you want to try and move across the intersections where they have traffic lights, cross at crosswalks and those types of things. And I know that is difficult because you're with a walker and have limited mobility. But if you can cross at these intersections where they have these, that's going to make it easier for you. I mean, one of the other things you can do is plan some of your routes on Google, and that way you'll know where you can cross, and you're going to have time and those types of things. Now, if they don't have curb cuts, most of the places where I live now, they're all curb cuts. One of the things you might want to do is, if you have a particular route and they don't have curb cuts, is that you could get in touch with city council and you could say to them, listen, I'm on a walker, I'm trying to get around to these curbs and there's no curb cuts, and it's very difficult for me to move my walker over the curb and those types of things. And they may take steps to help you out by modifying the curbs and those types of things. I know that we had a traffic island downtown here, and they did that very thing, and it was for mobility devices for people in wheelchairs and using walkers and those types of things. So my suggestion to you would be to get in touch with city council and indicate the routes where you need some help in terms of mobility device and cutting the curbs away and those types of things, and they'll be able to help you out and give you some advice and whatnot. Damon, is a smart car a good car to bring to a road test? No, Damon, it is not. And I hate to say this, but you don't look smart in a smart car. All right, it's a giant go-kart. And, I know that Mercedes-Benz says all kinds of things about them and how safe they are and this and that and whatnot. But I would not encourage you to bring a smart car to a driver's test. All right, if you can find a mid-size Toyota Corolla or a Honda Civic or a CRV or something like that, then that is a better choice of a vehicle to take to a driver's test. A smart car, keep that for driving and novelty after you get your license. Don't take it in for a driver's test. Elevator fan, you might have to turn left from a center left turn lane. Yes, center left turn lane, and there is a video here on the channel for center left turn lanes, and you just simply get in it, get your vehicle straight, and then make your turn when the way is clear. There are a lot of left center turn lanes for sure. Patricia, there's gravel in the island where the button is 2. Okay, and so Patricia, if you have gravel on the road, that is making it even more difficult because it's compromising your traction on the surface of the road. Definitely get in touch with city council and say, listen, this is what's going on. I'm having difficulty getting around and whatnot. These are the routes where I'm at. There's gravel on the roadways. Can we clean that up, please? Because I know right now with spring, crews are busy sweeping the streets, cleaning up all the gravel, the sand, and whatnot left over from the wintertime. But city council, they will put you probably in touch with the engineering department, and then the engineering department will probably be able to help you out. It's going to be a little bit of red tape for you. You're going to have to call some different people. You're going to have to talk to them and those types of things. And keep in mind that when you're dealing with city council, that if it isn't written down, it didn't happen. All right, so here's my suggestion. Every time you talk to somebody at city council, write down their name, the date that you talked to them, what you talked to them about, and just keep a log. And then that way you can hold them accountable if something doesn't get done. You can call back and you say, hey, listen, I talked to Dennis Smith on this date, and we had this conversation about this subject, and he said he was going to move forward with this and would be able to get it done by this date. And I mean, hold them accountable. Say to them, listen, I need some gravel swept up on this corner or whatnot. When do you think you can get that done? And then they'll say, oh, we'll be able to get it done within the next 2 weeks. And you just write that down as a note. Be able to get that done within the next 2 weeks. Is it all right? If it doesn't get done, can I call you back? Yep. And it's not about you being belligerent with them. It's simply about you holding them accountable. okay? Because they work for you, essentially. You're paying taxes, and you know, you need to get this stuff done for your personal safety. So take notes, keep a log, hold them accountable, and call them back and talk to a different person. Because the other part of it is you may have to talk to a number of different departments or different people within the engineering department is probably what's going to happen. Klaus, only a sign below with the time when school is open. Yes, but again, school's not open during holidays, for example. Noah, one night I nearly missed the lane I was turning left into because of the darkness and the heavy rain. It was terrifying, and yes, Noah, I absolutely 100% agree with you. Driving at night in the rain, especially if you're in a city and you have all that light reflecting off the water, it is tough to see and tough to drive at night. In my mind, it's one of the toughest driving conditions in which to operate a motor vehicle. I'll take winter during the daytime anytime, or I'll take winter during the night anytime. But that rain, heavy rain at night, with all the light in the city and the water and the light reflecting off the water, that is super, super tough. Elevator fan, is driving too deep in the intersection an automatic fail in a driver's test? Elevator fan, it's not an automatic fail in a driver's test because, for example, where Sam teaches there in the Bronx, my friend Sam, Big Mac Sam, you have to drive into the intersection, okay, in New York City. I am not an advocate of that because it is not your best defensive posturing. It is not an automatic fail. It's probably some points on your license, okay? If you're way out deep in the intersection, you're out there wandering around, you have no idea what you're doing, yeah, that might be considered an automatic fail on a driver's test, but not for the most part. Klaus, for those who may be planning a vacation in Germany, there are no biking lights on the triangles with a red edge on the white ground. It is a figure of two children on a white ground. Blinking lights on the triangle. Okay. You have to send me a picture of that, Klaus, if you can, on my email, rick@smartdrivetest, and then I can figure out what you're talking about, because that's not something we have here in North America. All right, okay. Okay, no gravel. Okay, so Patricia, we answered your question about getting in touch with that. For those of you going for a driver's test and getting ready for that, check out Pass Your Driver's Test First Time over at the Smart Drive Test website. Guaranteed to pass first time as well. We throw in both the winter and defensive driving smart courses as a bonus to keep you safe after you get your license. So you can pick that up for about $38 US over at the Smart Drive Test website. Definitely have a look at that. All right, pass your driver's test first time, and we're talking about left-hand turns and defensive posturing, keeping yourself safe. I am not an advocate of moving deep into the intersection, and the reason for that is to keep yourself safe, because if you're not in the intersection, it's less likely that you're going to be involved in an incident if something happens, because lots of people do, in fact, charge the yellow light. Lots of people do run the red lights and those types of things, so you don't want to be in the intersection. The other piece about that is if you wait back at the edge of the intersection, when your gap presents itself on the other side of the intersection, then you can get a head of steam up. You can get some speed up before you make your turn, and it reduces the amount of time that you're in the intersection and can expediently get through the intersection and move across that path of oncoming traffic and reduce your chances of being hit or T-boned by other cars. Elevator fan, people need to look for signs that say left turn on green arrow only. And yes, because oncoming traffic is not going to yield and you can't be in the intersection. Left turn signal is the other sign that you will be looking for that controls left turning traffic. And it's that traffic signal. If that traffic signal is red, you cannot make a left-hand turn into the intersection. Same thing as what Elevator Fan was just saying about left turn on green arrow only or left turn signal. Those are signals that are specifically for left turning vehicles. And as well, there's a video here on the channel about left turn signals and turning left at intersections with those. And some years ago, many years ago, I had a truck driving student who left turn signal, came up to the intersection, stopped, the light turned green, the other light turned green, the left turn signal was still red, moved out into an intersection, of course, was going on a red light and failed on on that point that they basically ran a red light. So know that and keep that in mind of what Elevator Fan just said, because that's exactly right. Lewis, how do you deal with 90-degree parking spots right at the side of the road? There's no angle for visibility if you're backing out with cars parked next to you. Hope this makes sense. Yes. So essentially what you're doing is that you've pulled into a parking space and then you have to back out and you can't see oftentimes past the other car. What you need to do is you need to be backing out super, super slow until you can see. So basically you got to inch out, inch out, inch out. And what you're doing is that you're giving other traffic time to see you, other traffic to, so that you can get stopped if you do in fact see other traffic. But essentially what you want to do is just keep inching out until you can see. And then when you can see, then you start moving. This happens a lot if you pull into a parking space in a mall parking lot or a grocery store parking lot, or as you said, along the side of the road and whatnot, because you cannot see, right? And until you can see, then you commit to backing out and going. But otherwise, you just have to keep inching out. It's the same thing as at an intersection. Sorry, my microphone was messing around there. At an intersection, if you can't see at an intersection, you just keep inching out until you can see. And when the way is clear and you can see that the way is clear, then you proceed. Otherwise, do not commit until, in fact, you can see. And this is part and parcel of your observation, all right? So know that. If you can't see other traffic, you can't see what they're doing, other vehicles, other road users, those types of things, make sure that you just inch out until you can see, and then you go when you can see, and that's going to keep you safe when you're driving. All right, so we're talking about that. Let's talk about other pieces of defensive driving right now, and I've been giving this a lot of thought about hit it and quit it driving. New cars are actually making us lazy. Let me say that again. And they're causing more car crashes. Newer cars are causing more car crashes, and that's probably what I should call the title of it. New cars are causing more car crashes, and they are causing more crashes because people get in the car and they hit it and quit it. And I was thinking about this yesterday because my old buggy, my 1998 Honda CR-V, I actually have to drive that thing. I cannot be not engaged in driving, and I drive in the mountains. I live in the mountains, and we went down to Harrison Hot Springs for a vacation. It's about 3.5 hours away, and you got to go over the Coca-Cola Summit, which is a really high summit, and the 1998 Honda CR-V, here's a little bit of information for you. At 5,400 RPM, which is pretty high rev. I mean, you're pretty close to redline at 5,400 RPM. It produces 126 horsepower. 126 horsepower. Well, fast forward 25 years, the 2023 Honda CR-V has a 1.5 liter engine in it with a turbocharger, and it puts out 190 horsepower. So it's putting out 64 more horsepower than what the previous generation of the CRAs were putting out. Now, just to put that in perspective of what a 64 horsepower, how much 64 horsepower is, in 1968, the Volkswagen Beetle was 68 horsepower. 4 more horsepower than the difference between 1998 Honda CR-V and a 2023 Honda CR-V. You could basically, with that 64 horsepower difference, you can power a whole other car. Now, just on a funny note of the 1968 Volkswagen Beetle, you had a 4-cylinder pancake engine. It's called a pancake engine because the pistons go this way as opposed to this way. So you got a 4-cylinder engine going this way. It's air-cooled. It's 68 horsepower, and a top speed in a 1968 Volkswagen Beetle is probably 60 miles an hour. That's probably as fast as that thing will go. And we were laughing about this, and the reason I know this and looked this up was there's a 68 Volkswagen Beetle around the corner for sale from them. My mom's visiting from Ontario, which is 2,500 miles from here, and she was saying, oh, I could buy that and drive that home. And of course I was laughing. I'm like, no air conditioning, 4-cylinder, 68 horsepower, air-cooled engine with a 4-speed transmission in it going across 2,500 miles, 4,000 kilometers across Canada. I mean, on the mountains, I mean, up and down some of the summits, I mean, that thing wouldn't even be doing 30 miles an hour, 50 kilometers an hour, up and down over the hills. Just be crazy. So, hit it and quit it driving. This is what I call it now. Hit it and quit it driving. Now, we get into most modern vehicles in the last 10 years. They have way more horsepower than is ever needed. And you get in the vehicle, you turn the air conditioning on, it totally works. You can run all your podcasts and any other accessories you want to run in the vehicle, and it doesn't affect anything. It's just, the thing just goes, right? You're up and down the highway, and you're driving over the mountains and whatnot, and you set that cruise control, say at 120 kilometers an hour, 70 miles an hour, and that thing will just maintain that 70 miles an hour all day long because it's got so much horsepower. Now, my 25-year-old Honda CR-V, which has 126 horsepower, and it's got a 5-speed manual transmission in it, I'm coming up over the mountain, and I got to gear down, so I got to gear down one gear, and I've got it right to the boards. I've got it right to the floor, going as fast as it can, and it's running out at 5,500 RPM, and it is just like, you know that it's going that fast because of the sound of the engine and the amount of vibration in the vehicle. So, driving the old CR-V, and the other thing is that I have to drive in such a manner that I can keep the speed constant, because it doesn't have a great deal of acceleration. It doesn't come off the line and get up to 60 miles an hour like super quick, like 5 or 6 seconds. It takes a bit to get that thing up to 60 mile an hour. When you get it up to 60 mile an hour, you want to stay at 60 mile an hour. So the newer vehicles, drivers are not engaged in the driving task. They're not driving the vehicle anymore. They get in it, they throw it in gear, and they push down on the throttle, and away they go, right? So my argument is that because vehicles are becoming so much easier to drive, and every vehicle in North America now, probably 85-90% of vehicles in North America now have automatic transmissions in them. So just let me know in the comments there, and for those of you watching on the replay, let me know down in the comments there. Are you driving an automatic car, or are you driving a manual car? And I bet you most of you, more than 90%, I'm guessing more than 90% of you are driving automatic cars. Super duper easy, okay? And this is the other piece that's kind of disturbing me about big trucks. All these big trucks are going to automatic trucks too, and you know, they're just less and less engaged in the in the driving, right? Whereas when I get in the buggy, the old buggy, I am engaged in the driving task, and I think that we are, technology and horsepower and all these creature comforts that we're getting in the vehicles in combination with telematics, all of this stuff is making us lazy drivers. It is eroding our ability to drive. Close. New cars often doesn't look good. My 1997 Audi A6 has 115 horsepower, 2.5 liter, 5-cylinder turbo diesel. Okay. Okay, so how could you have 115 horsepower with a 2.5 liter? A6 C4, 115 horsepower. Okay, 115 for, oh, it's a diesel. Okay, so 115, okay, so let's explain something about diesels and gasoline engines, okay? If you have a 115 horsepower gasoline engine and you have a 115 horsepower diesel engine, those two animals are different. They're very different. Think of one like a, what's comparable? One's a horse and one's a bull. Like not a bull, but an oxen, right? That pulls farm equipment. That's the diesel, and the other one is the horse. Yes, it can run very fast for about 20 minutes or whatnot, but those two things are not the same thing. And this is the other piece that they're now telling you is how much foot-pounds of torque a vehicle has. And a diesel engine is going to have way more foot-pounds of torque. And the torque is essentially the twisting action. So essentially, I could take a diesel engine and I could put it, you know, at its 60 mile an hour, and I could run up and down the mountains, and that thing would never slow down. Whereas a gas engine at 115 horsepower, it's going to slow down. The transmission's going to be gearing down and those types of things. So know that, okay, for everybody. And I know diesel engines aren't a huge thing here in North America for personal motor cars, but in Europe and other places in the world, diesel engines are a much bigger thing. And in my mind, they're much more efficient. because they last longer. They, and they get better fuel economy and those types of things. I can remember in the 1970s, my aunt had a, not a Toyota, a Golf Rabbit. Okay, it's the predecessor, or not a Golf Rabbit, a Volkswagen Rabbit. Okay, the Volkswagen Rabbit was the predecessor to the Golf. And she had a diesel engine in it. And I mean, in the 1970s, the thing was getting 50 miles to the gallon. Okay, horsepower to weight ratio. Of course, it's, a little diesel engine with a four-speed manual transmission in it. It probably didn't have air conditioning and all those other creature comforts and whatnot. But I mean, 50 years ago, it was getting 50 miles to the gallon. This is the piece that I don't get. I mean, we're moving towards electric vehicles, but it's like, why are petrol engines not getting 100 miles to the gallon? Tracy had a small Golf for a short period of time. We drove it to Calgary, and that thing on the highway got 5.5 liters to the 100, which is like almost 50 miles to the gallon. Why is this not common practice now? I mean, it's kind of crazy, but that's my question. 3PO, 22 Honda Accord. It's got a CVT transmission, 192 horsepower. It's great regen paddles that gives the illusion that you're driving manual. Yes. See, 92 horsepower. Just so you can like get in and hit and quit it. It's the same thing with Tracy's 2016 Audi V6 supercharger. Comes stock with 333 horsepower. It's probably got a tune in it that's over 400 horsepower. I mean, you put that thing on for 130, 80 miles an hour out on the highway, and the thing just like all day long will go that fast. Nothing will slow it down. Not like driving the old Honda CR-V or driving vehicles, pre-1990, where you actually have to drive the vehicle. So that's one of the things that I'm talking about, is that the vehicles and the comforts and the horsepower, we have less feedback inside of the vehicles, thinking about sound and vibration through the vehicles, because of course tires are better, suspensions are better, the insulation in the vehicle, carpeting and those types of things, all of this stuff is getting better. So we have less visceral feedback from the vehicle when we're driving, so we're not as engaged in the driving task, and all of these other skills are being eroded, and we're moving to a generation of people who are driving who basically get in it and hit it and quit it, and they are not really paying attention. They're not doing all the things they need to do to keep themselves safe when they're driving. 3PO, I'm still breaking it in. I feel more comfortable with my old 08 Toyota Camry. Yes, that happens for sure. And Noah says that she is an automatic transmission. Of course, most people do in North America, okay, as opposed to Europe. My professional opinion, or my professional estimate is that we have about 85% automatics in North America and about 15% manual transmissions. In Europe, it's the inverse of that. It's 85% manual transmissions and 15% automatic transmissions in Europe. And it's one of the worst things in my mind that has ever happened is they put automatic transmissions in pickup trucks. Okay? Automatic transmission is basically a hydraulic pump. And I was talking to my mom about this yesterday when we were coming back through the mountains. And of course, the pickup trucks and the camper vans and the trailers and those types of things are starting to come out now that it's nice weather. Of course, we have kind of a hot spell here early. And, they go to the camper van place and they buy their trailer and those types of things, and they ask the salespeople and whatnot there at the dealership, oh, will this truck pull? Yeah, it'll pull that for sure. But yes, it'll pull it on the flat. It won't pull it in the mountains. And the other piece that they forget is they get, the tongue weight, how much weight is sitting on the back of the truck on the hitch. And you put 4 people in the pickup truck plus all your gear to go camping, bicycles, food, accessories, all your clothing and those types of things. And then you fill the water tank up in the trailer, which is another 500, 700 pounds because it's 10 pounds per gallon. And they start going up and through the mountains, and they blow the transmission out of the truck because it's hot and it's working like crazy, and nobody said to them, hey, you need to put a transmission cooler on that thing to pull that trailer, right? So these are the things that happens when you're pulling trailers. So if you're thinking about that for the summertime, get in touch with me and I'll be able to help you out in terms of figuring out if the truck that you have will in fact pull that camper trailer through the mountains. Any truck, any vehicle will pull it on the flat, but pulling it in the mountains is a very different exercise. Klaus, the Audi has a 5-speed manual transmission, even better. And this is one of the reasons I drive the old buggy, is because it's got a manual transmission in it. I would not drive a 4-cylinder. I probably would drive one of these 4-cylinders that's close to 200 horsepower with an automatic transmission behind it. However, the old buggy, I don't think that I would drive it with an automatic transmission in it. I really like having a manual transmission. So there you go. No, I would never have passed my road test if I had to drive manual. No way. No, yes, you would. Yes, you would. Lots of people, all kinds of people in Europe pass their driver's test with a manual transmission. You would, in fact, do that. If that's what all you had and you had to do it, it's amazing what we can do when we have to do something, for sure. 3PO, okay, so you talked about that. Excellent. Awesome. Check out Pass Your Driver's Test First Time Course Package over at the Smart Drive Test website. Pass Your Driver's Test guaranteed as well. We throw in as a bonus both the winter and defensive driving smart courses, guaranteed to help you pass your driver's test and to keep you safe after you get your driver's test. 4 components for any driver's test, okay? Space management is the most important one. If you're not near anything, it's less likely that you're not going to hit something, okay? 2 to 3 second following distance minimum for the duration of your driving, and you should keep this after you get your driver's license for best defensive posturing. There is a way that you can measure your following distance, but essentially you want to know that if you are using the brake, you only should be using the brake for 4 reasons: slowing down to come to a stop, slowing down to turn or behind other turning traffic, controlling your speed on a downgrade, and unexpected events. Those are the only times you should be using the brake. If you're using the brake to control space in front of your vehicle, you're too close to the vehicle in front of you and should back off. You should be able to just use the accelerator, the gas pedal, to control space in front. So if the traffic in front of you slows down, you should be able to just let your foot off the throttle and slow down, and that space will be maintained in front of your vehicle. That's how you know if your following distance is good. Stopping at the correct stopping position at stop sign or at controlled intersections, so a stop sign, yield sign, or traffic lights. Stop line, crosswalk, before the crosswalk or sidewalk. If those 2 conditions don't exist, then you're going to stop at the edge of the intersection just before going into the box of the intersection is where you need to stop. Don't drive into an intersection you can't clear. For space management between you and vulnerable road users. So for example, if you're passing a pedestrian that's walking along the edge of the road, you want 3 feet, 1 meter minimum between you and the pedestrian, okay? So imagine that there's another person standing between you and whatever obstacle that you're trying to get past. It's the same thing when you're trying to parallel park. You want to be approximately 3 feet from the car that you're going to parallel park behind. So that's your space management. Observation is your next most critical thing for the purposes of passing your driver's test and keeping yourself safe when you are driving. Forward scanning pattern, down the road, instrument panel, down the road, center mirror, down the road, and then both wing mirrors, okay? And you want to repeating that every 8 to 10 seconds. Forward scanning pattern is critical because you're checking your instrument panel and it is tied into your speed control. So if you're not adjusting your speed every 10 to 15 seconds, it indicates to the examiner that you are not observing correctly because you're not checking your instrument panel every now and again, okay? And no, you can't use cruise control on a driver's test, okay? Keep that for after you get your driver's test. So, observation as well, shoulder check, shoulder check, shoulder check. Every time you change direction of the vehicle, shoulder check and signal. You got to signal both going forward and backwards for observation. Part of observation is situational awareness. Where am I? What is the driving environment that I'm in? Okay, am I in a residential area? Am I on a multi-lane urban road going through the city? Am I on a highway? Am I on a freeway, interstate, motorway, those types of things? So where am I? And I am in a school zone. Am I going past a park? Am I going past a school? All of those, you need that bit of situational awareness when you're driving and observing. Intersections. 40% of crashes happen at intersections. So map and track road users as you're approaching the intersection. Position your vehicle if you're going to be turning left or right. So if you're turning right, you want to get into the right-hand lane. If you're turning right lane to right lane, turning left, you want to turn left lane to left lane. As well, yes, you have to get back over to the right. If you make a left-hand turn, you have to move over to the right. The driving instructor, or the examiner rather, will not tell you that, okay? You have to do that yourself. The only time you stay in the left lane is if the examiner says, okay, in the next few blocks, I want you to turn left again, just stay here in the left lane. That's the only time you stay in the left lane. Otherwise, you need to be driving in that right-hand lane, because the regulatory sign that says slower traffic, stay right, you're going to be the slower traffic because you're driving the speed limit. So, space management, observation, observing. You need to observe when you're changing lanes as well. Mirror signal shoulder check, make sure there's a gap, check your mirrors. Look forward, mirror signal shoulder check, your signal on the whole time, and start moving across. And you need to accelerate a little bit when you're changing lanes, because you're moving on an angle, therefore you're covering more distance as you're moving across. Reversing, observing. You can use a backup camera, you can use your mirrors, but you need to be looking out through the back window when you're reversing, okay? Every vehicle length, pause, check your backup camera, check your mirrors, 360-degree scan around the vehicle and look back, okay? And that was the first thing that you need to do before you start reversing, is doing your 360-degree scan around your vehicle. Make sure there isn't anybody that you could potentially run into in those types of things. All right. Space management, observation, communication. You need to communicate effectively with other road users. Communicate effectively means that position of your vehicle or the road user on the roadway is the biggest way that we communicate. Remember that it's kind of like the way that we communicate with other people. 80% of communication between two people is non-verbal, okay? It's the way you stand. You know, if I'm standing like this, I'm communicating something. I'm not saying anything, right? It's the same thing with position of vehicles and positions of road users on the roadway. Where they are on the roadway is communicating intent to you. If a vehicle is in the left turning lane, there's a high probability that that vehicle is going to turn left. If there's a pedestrian standing at the crosswalk, there's a good high probability that that pedestrian is going to cross the roadway. If they're walking along the roadway and they're looking behind them, checking traffic, and they're looking behind them and they're walking along the edge of the roadway, there's high probability that that pedestrian is going to jaywalk. So, position of the road user communicates intent. Lights and signals. Eye contact, hand gestures, okay, come through. Last is using your horn, but use your horn sparingly in North America because it's seen as a sign of road rage. It's aggression. All right, and then last one is speed control. You need to drive the posted speed limit or the flow of traffic, whichever is less for the purposes of your driver's test. Space management, observation, communication, and speed management are the 4 components of your driver's test. And when you're learning to drive and watching what everybody else is doing, not coming to a complete stop at stop sign intersections, following too close, keeping up with traffic flow, all of that is social driving. And if you participate in social driving for the purposes of your driver's test, you are not going to pass your driver's test, because everybody else is doing everything that is wrong with the way that we drive, and the reason why we have such high crash rates, because they follow too close, they speed, fail to give the right of way, and I already said the top 3. Mismanaged, they don't manage speed, following too close, and they fail to give the right of way. Those are the top 3 reasons for crashes. Elevator fan, I've seen vehicles freeze in the intersection after the light turns red. Yes. Don't freeze. If the light turns red and you're making your left-hand turn in the intersection, make sure, double check that oncoming traffic is not coming to a stop, and then get out of the intersection. Clear the intersection. Blitzo, why is it a good idea to check your blind spot twice before turning at an intersection and checking it after you get out of an intersection? Okay, so you're only checking it before you go into the intersection. The reason that you're checking it twice is due to the fact that traffic is dynamic and always changing, and you want to make sure as you're coming up, you're checking your blind area, making sure that there isn't anybody in there, and then immediately before turning You're checking again. It's kind of like carpentry, right? We measured twice, cut once. And unlike carpentry, if you mismeasure it, you just go get another piece of timber. But with driving, if you missed and you make a mistake because you didn't shoulder check, now you're going to run over a pedestrian, you're going to run into a cyclist, somebody on a scooter, because lots of senior citizens on scooters and those types of things. So you want to shoulder check twice, maybe even 3 times when you're doing your turns, so that you can check into your blind areas and make sure that there isn't somebody there when you're turning. And the other piece about changing lanes, and this is one of the things that I do, and I teach this as the best defensive posturing, signal on, mirror signal, shoulder check, and then you start inching over a little bit to the left side of your lane, and then you check again and make sure that there isn't anybody there. It communicates intent, because as I said, the most important way that we communicate intent is by the position of our vehicle on the roadway. So when you're changing lanes and you move over to that left side of the lane, all of a sudden there's a movement. The vehicle behind you are like, hey, wait a minute, that person moved over to the left side of the lane. They're probably going to be changing lanes. And oh, hey, look, they got their signal on too. So you got to back up in terms of your communication, and then you look again and you check, and yeah, everybody stopped, and then you move over. Okay, it's the same thing as your shoulder checking twice, and then that way other vehicles can help you out. And as I say, minimum 3 flashes on the signal. The first one is to get the other person, the other road user's attention. The second one is for them to locate you. It's like the first one, it's like flash, like, oh, okay, there they are. Second one, oh, they're right there. And then the third one is for them to take some sort of action. And I get smart drivers that come back to me and say all the time, oh, every time I put my signal on, the person beside me speeds up. If they speed up and you're trying to change lanes, they're actually doing you a favor because they're getting out of the way. All right? So, blitz. You're checking, double checking. Again, look twice, move once, and then that way you can significantly reduce the chances of you being involved in a crash. And this is the other piece. Blind spot detectors, mirrors, convex mirrors, those types of things, all eroding our ability to do the checks that we need to do when we're driving. Same thing with backup cameras. Everybody's just like glued to a backup camera. They're not doing all the 360-degree checks, checking their mirrors and looking out through the backup or out through the back window. You have all these tools to keep yourself safe. Use all your tools to keep yourself safe when you're driving. Epic, on the other types of larger vehicles, you'll be expected to do open doors and stop at railway crossings and hazmat loads. In some jurisdictions, you're allowed left on right red signals for test if applicable. Yes. The only situation that I know where you're allowed to turn left on a red light is a one-way road to a one-way road. That's the only situation, and those are rare. All right? I mean, it might be something that you'll encounter on your driving test, and if you do have that situation, you are not sure, I would encourage you to take a lesson with a driving instructor just so that they can walk you through that, because you don't want to make that kind of mistake. And this comes back to making a right turn on a red light. This is an unexpected event that you may have to do for the purposes of your driver's test. But if it is busy, you can wait for the green light. And my friend Big Mac Sam is here. Hello, my friend Big Mac Sam. And if you are taking your driver's test in New York City and it's 5 boroughs, Manhattan, Queens, Bronx, Brooklyn, Staten Island, you cannot turn right on a red light. And that's the reason when I was down with Big Mac Sam shooting a video, why I failed the video, why I failed my driver's test, because I made a right on a red light. So know that. And Big Mac Sam, you're right at the end, my friend. We're just finishing up here and just about to take off. I've got to go and do a driver's test, actually. So I gotta jet out of here. But it's always great to see you, my friend. Blitzo, I just took my driving test at DMV a few weeks ago. I passed it, and let me tell you, my driving instructor was right, because he said that your neck should be hurting like hell because you'll be turning it so much. Yes, head on a swivel. Head on a swivel for absolutely sure. Klaus, I don't even have a stupid freaking backup camera crap in my Skoda, and I don't need a piece of... Elevator fan, you can turn left on a red if you are turning left from one-way street onto another one-way street, and that is true, my friend. And awesome. All right, we're going to leave it there for today. As I said, I got a jet here because I got to go and do a driver's test in Kelowna, which is up the road here. But thank you so much for all your questions, engaging. It's been really great. We're trying to do one here in the morning to help people out, for people that can't make the evening live stream. And just check. I'll get them up and give you lots of notice. Excellent. Thank you so much, Sam. And if you have any questions, leave a comment down in the comment section. If you passed your driver's test in the last week or so, congratulations. Awesome. Be sure to celebrate, because you only get your first license one time. Never happens again. Yes, you can get CDL licenses and those types of things, but there's never like the first time. And as well, if you have a driver's test coming up in the next couple of weeks, good luck on that. Remember to breathe, and remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. Have a great day. All the best. Bye.